Hi there, welcome back to the YouTube channel. Thanks for coming and checking out today's video. Just a quick announcement before we start the video. I'm still on holiday this week, so there's no streams this week. The next stream will be Sunday the 13th of August, around about 1:30 p.m. GMT. So if you want to come and see some of the decks I talk about all through this week, come and check out the stream then. There's a link down below. Come and give me a follow there, and then you'll get the go live notification when I go live. Anyway, that's that. So, still looking at Commander Masters. By the time you see this video, it will have been released, and hopefully you've all been at the pre-release and had a nice time at it. I've missed it 'cause I'm on holiday, but never mind. But I'm still covering some of the cards from there that have been reprinted that I haven't covered before on the channel. And obviously today's one, as you all know, is Experiment Kraj. 2 double green and double blue for a full 6 legendary creature ooze mutant. And it has... Experiment Kraj has all activated abilities of each other creature with a +1/+1 counter on it. Tap, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature. Now, I'm highlighting this bit. I'm just wiggling my mice around it, so I'm hoping you can see it. An activated ability, from my understanding, is anything that's got a colon in the trigger. Therefore, any creature that has a colon on it, Kraj can copy if it's got a +1/+1 counter on it. So, it's kind of a +1/+1 counter deck with a theme attached to it, and this is what I've gone with. So, mana base, green blue lands all the way through, Fabled Passage, a few other bits and pieces which I'll just point out quickly. Reliquary Tower is here, Temple of the False Gods here, everything else, the gates from Battle from Baldur's Gate are here, and it's basically all the blue-green lands you can think of and a whole load of basics to go with it. The ramp side, from the artifact point of view, Soul Talisman, Soul Ring, Arcane Signet, Simic Signet, so I decided to try the Signets out in this deck just for a change. Coalition Relic and Simic Cluestone. I decided, I could have gone down the whole diamond route. I could have gone down Thought, whatever it is, the one that makes your hand size irrelevant, but I decided against it. I want to try these out. They've got a little bit of a bonus from my point of view, especially the Cluestone, in that we can sack it if we need to draw a card if we get empty-handed, and yeah, 1 mana turns into 2. That's fine, I can cope with that. Talismans here. I went with Talisman over the other suspend card, Mox Tantalite, because I needed the colourless mana, probably more than I need the coloured mana for this deck with the ramp we've got. So here we go. Don't forget, we're looking at creatures that have activated abilities. So Birds of Paradise is here. It's got a colon in it. It's activated ability. Then I've mentioned Collective Voyage a lot recently. I'm still really enjoying playing this card. Yes, it ramps all my opponents. I know that. But it really does help us, especially in this deck where we've got such a lot of things at the top end of the scale, or we need triple or double colours in some cases. So that does help. Obviously, it's a +1/+1 counter deck, so Hardened Scales makes an appearance. And then we're going across. So, Bloom Tenderer will always, hopefully give us a blue and a green mana when we tap it. Farseek goes and fetches us one of the lands we need. Gaia Sage will evolve. So, a creature with greater power enters the battlefield. You get to put a +1/+1 counter on Gaia Sage. And then you get to add a green mana for each +1/+1 counter on the Sage. It's quite nice with Experimental Kraj because, obviously you've got to get a +1/+1 counter on here for it to do anything, but, shouldn't be that difficult. Heroic Intervention makes sure we can save the board if we need to. Rampant Growth goes and gets us a basic we need. Sylvan Caryatid is just a hexproof defender that taps for a mana. Again, Experiment Kraj can be used for it. 3 visits, another way of just getting a forest card. Simic Guildmage, we can move the +1/+1 counters around if we need to. That's all it's in here for. Obviously, we've got no auras in this deck, but moving a +1/+1 counter from target creature onto another target creature with the same controller could be useful. Biomancer's Familiar's here to make our activated abilities cost 2 less. And the adapting does work a little bit, but not that relevant in this deck. So we'll just ignore that. Combine Guildmage, move a +1/+1 counter around. This turn, each creature you control that enters the battlefield with an additional +1/+1 counter on it. So it's quite a nice way of, adding 2 mana to all your creatures that you're going to play that turn to get the additional counters, and you can move things around if you need to. Kiora's Follower lets us untap something. Lonus, because we can sacrifice the clues. Tap, sacrifice X clues. So we might as well have this in here to try and nick stuff from our opponents. Simic Ascendancy. Obviously, you can't give this ability to Kraj, but if we can do the +1/+1 counters on something, this gives us an alternate win condition, so bear that in mind. Thassaeus is also in Triton Hero. This is a card you can drop. I know it's a little bit pricey still for some people in real life or even on MTGO. But 4 scry, 1, reveal the top card of your library is really quite useful. And the other Guild Mage. This turn, each creature you control that enters the battlefield with an additional +1/+1 counter on it, and remove a +1/+1 counter from a creature you control and draw a card. So the Guild Mages are really quite effective in this deck because they all have the same sort of like +1/+1 upside to them. Arcane Signet I've mentioned, Simic Signet I've mentioned, but we've got Lightning Greaves and the Boots are in the deck as well to help protect Kraj once we get it in play. Along with Ornithopter of Paradise is also here, just another way to add us some mana and have a flyer attacker if we need it. Horseshoe Crab lets us untap it. You can pay 1. If I understand it correctly, if Kraj in play, you can pay 1 to untap Kraj and just keep chucking +1/+1 counters around. Azusa's here just because I wanted to get the extra land into play quickly. Fight Rigging gives us +1/+1 counters and a nice little hideaway bit. Growing Rights digs us down for another creature, eventually flips, and we get a lot of mana with a bit of luck. Cameo of the Whispering Hopes you've seen in +1/+1 decks before, so you know what this does. Kodama of the West Tree might be a bit of a new one, coming in from Kamigawa Neon Dynasty. Gives your modified creatures have trample, and whenever a modified creature you control deals combat damage to play, you get to go and get a basic land and put it into play. Considering we're really concentrating on +1/+1 counters, this is a bit of a no-brainer. Rites of Flourishing, extra land drop and card draw. Viridian Joiner gets to add mana equal to its power in green. Yavimar Elder, you can sacrifice it off to draw a card. I'm not saying you want to sacrifice off Experiment Kraj, just so we're clear on this, but it is another activated ability. But when it dies, we do go get 2 basic lands and put them in our hands. That helps. Circle of Dreams Druid is a great one to have on Experiment Kraj if we can get it there. It's 3 green mana, so it's a little bit more complicated to do. Gilder Barn is an untap ability, which is unusual. So you pay 2 and a green or a blue and untap it and double the number of each counter on target permanent. So you can double up on your +1/+1 counters, which is quite nice. Gaia Age, just a double tap, a tap for 2 mana, 1 of each colour we need, green and blue. It's 3 mana and it's 1/1, so it's a little bit weak, but if we can pump it up some +1/+1 counters, it will survive quite a bit. Hidana's Climb gives us more +1/+1 counters and is another way of winning the game with a big creature that we put in the air. Uro, you know what Uro does. Again, not something with an activated ability, but it's just a nice way of gaining a bit of life, drawing a card and dropping an extra land. Vorel of the Hull Clad is also here to double the number of each kind of counter on target artifact, creature or land. Coalition Relic I've mentioned, Simic Cluestone I've mentioned, and Pilgrim's Eye is just here to go and find us a basic land. I decided to try the Eye out instead of Solemn Simulacrum in this deck, just for a change. Forgotten Ancient makes an appearance. Whenever a player casts a spell, you get to put a +1 on it, and at the beginning of your upkeep, you may move any number of +1/+1 counters from Forgotten Ancient onto other creatures, so that's quite cool. Kamatra's Acolyte gives us green mana equal to our devotion to green. Oracle of Muldai lets us play lands from top of our library, as you know. Renata, when a creature comes into play, you get to put a +1/+1 counter on it. Fathom Mage, the second evolved creature in the deck. This one's even nicer because you get, whenever a +1/+1 counter is put on Fathom Mage, you may draw a card. Yeah, okay then. We'll just do that instead of worrying about the evolve trick. And Master Biomancer. Each other creature you enters with an additional number of +1/+1 counters on it equal to the Master Biomancer's power and as a mutant in addition to its other creature types. This is one of the few creatures in the deck along with Kraj that you want to try and get this or this on to protect it, because this will just dominate the game when it happens, so bear that in mind. Morphling makes an appearance because of all its activated abilities, along with its green counterpart. Thornling also makes an appearance. Getting +1/+1 on these is good, and Thornling's slightly better than the Morphling in that you can make it indestructible. Shroud is okay, but it doesn't stop it being Wrath of God away, but you know, had to go a bit old school in this deck. Defiler Reviga coming in from Dominaria United, sorry. Nearly said Invasion of Phyrexia, no idea why. All your green, whenever you cast a green permanent spell, put +1/+1 counter on each creature you control. Makes things good. Hero's Bane enters the battlefield with 4 +1/+1 counters on it. Then you get to put X +1/+1 counters on it with its mana value, where its power is equal to for 2 green and 2. Seedborn Muse untaps everything, and this is an instant. It can be done at instant speed, so you know. Get this in play with Seedborn Muse in play. Every upkeep you get to double its power, basically. Thornling I've mentioned, and Mercfiend Liege. You get to untap everything else, and you get double trigger, so you can float a whole load of mana if you do it correctly. Be aware of it. Arcanus, the Omnipotent's here to draw some cards and return it to save itself being killed, and this is 2 abilities that will both work with Experiment Kraj, which is quite nice. It gives you a way to save the experiment. I know we solve experiments usually, but we're saving this one if we need to. Hydra Broodmaster, when my computer catches up with my mouth, goes Monstrosity X, and you get to make all those nice Hydra tokens. Fable of Wolf and Owl is just here because we're playing a lot of blue and green, so we might as well try and get some tokens to save ourselves. And Triskelion. This is a card you want to get as many +1/+1 counters on as humanly possible, and then use it to win the game. Great Henge helps with that, obviously. And Hangerback Walker, another one we want to get as many +1/+1 counters on as possible, so we get all those Thopters when it dies. And the final card in the deck is just Commit to Memory, just so we can get everything shuffled from our graveyard back into our library eventually, and deal with something that's annoying us. But that's it. Experiment Kraj is an interesting card, I have to say. I have enjoyed building this deck and thinking about it and looking at all the things. Yes, there are probably more appropriate cards out there that have got activated abilities, but I just went through my collection. Let me know down below in the description, in the notes, comments, that's the word I'm looking for. Let me know in the comments what you would include. And if you haven't subscribed to the YouTube channel, please hit the subscribe button out. As I record this, I'm sitting at 220 subscribers. I'd really like to try and get to that 500 number at some stage. So if you can subscribe, please do. Let your friends know. Get them to subscribe. Get your nan, granddad, whoever to subscribe as well. Just help me out. Help me get to the 500. They don't have to watch me. Just help me get to the 500. I'd really appreciate it. But that's it for now. I'll be back tomorrow with some more Commander Masters cards. So have fun. Hopefully you come back tomorrow and watch it again. See you later. Bye.